Welcome to the Stahls Heat Press for Profit podcast, a show designed for people who are trying to make it in their heat print hustle. I'm your host, Josh Ellsworth, and we're excited today to welcome Marshall Atkinson, business owner of Mesa, Arizona-based Atkinson Consulting. Marshall is one of the leading production and efficiency experts for the decorated apparel industry. As a coach, he focuses on operational efficiency, continuous improvement, workflow strategy, business planning, marketing, employee motivation, management, sustainability, and much more. I've had the opportunity to meet Marshall at an event he co-founded called Shirt Lab with industry entrepreneur Tom Ron. I'd like to welcome in Marshall. Thanks for joining the show.
Hey Josh, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's fantastic to be here.
Yeah, well, we're excited to learn from Marshall on today's show as we share some ideas to make you more successful as an apparel decorator. And before we go too deep, Marshall, can you just spend a minute or two telling our listeners a little bit about your journey into this world of decorated apparel?
Yeah, sure. So my origin story is really kind of interesting. I got into the industry way back in the early 90s. I was working on my master's degree in architecture and didn't want any student loans because who wants to pay any money back, right?
Right.
So I started a t-shirt company selling to fraternities and sororities. And this is way back when you had to use letter set, rub down letters and everything. There was before computers. I'm not old, right? And so the guy that was printing my shirts for me offered me a position as their art director because they were actually moving from a stack camera to a computer system. And at the time, I was already doing 3D automated models and stuff using AutoCAD. So I had a computer background, and I used that Christmas break to teach myself this brand new program that came out called Photoshop and another program called Freehand, which is kind of the precursor to Illustrator, and just never looked back and started in 1993, January 3rd, 1993 in this industry as an art director. I held that position with a company called T Formation in Florida for 14 years, but I was always the guy that there's a better way of doing it. We can be more efficient. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. I got promoted to operations and did operations for 4 years. I was a casualty of that recession in 2008, 2009, for those of you that remember that. And by 2010, I lost my job. I was a casualty of the recession. I started my consulting business the next day, and this was December of 2010. And in 2011, I started traveling the country, helping shops, learning all the efficiency stuff and processes and all the things that I've been doing for so long and teaching them that. And then I went to Visual Impressions in Milwaukee, became their chief operating officer shortly after that, and worked there for 5 years. And then I moved on from there and did some stuff with Inksoft, which is why I'm in Arizona right now. But I've been doing consulting instead of the part-time gig since 2010. I've been doing consulting full-time now for the last 3 years, helping shops full-time. And that's kind of all I do now. And frankly, I believe it's what I'm built for and what I really enjoy. So, for anybody out there that needs help, that's what I do. So happy to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know Marshall, for our listeners, has a wealth of experience, as you just heard, not only coaching, but also being inside of large manufacturing facilities in a variety of roles. And so this is real life experience that we get to hear from on the episode today. So I'm excited to spend the majority of the time just diving into content. But before I go too deep, I have to tell our listeners about this event that you put together that I mentioned in front of the episode, which is called Shirt Lab. I had quite a great experience when I attended the one in Washington, D.C. Actually, it's almost been a year ago now, but it was just phenomenal. So talk to us a little bit about how the idea for Shirt Lab came about and what you've been able to accomplish over the last year or so.
Yeah, sure. So Shirt Lab originated from an SGIA event called ThreadX. And Tom and I both attended that. It's a fantastic event if you're interested in that kind of stuff. I've been every year, by the way. And but anyway, so the second day of the event, we're hanging out at breakfast, and like a lot of people do when we get together, all we seem to do is really complain about the industry. And so one of the things that at our table was really kind of the notion that this industry does a lot of really great support on how to do the decoration, how to screen print or embroider or heat press or DTG or whatever, how to do that stuff better. But what was really lacking was the sales and marketing aspect of things, because everybody was coming at it at the same level that they've always brought to it. And we're seeing a lot of industry disruption from companies like Custom Ink and Amazon and that kind of stuff. So there was really like nobody really had real marketable skills. How to do Google Analytics and how to do different things and how to hire a sales team and why you should be into things like voice search or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So what we decided was there was opportunity here. I wrote a business plan. I highly recommend that you build your business with a business plan, by the way. So I wrote a business plan about it, and Tom and I kind of noodled over it for a month or two or three, and we decided that this would be something that we could do. So the idea here was to do a live sales and marketing workshop, all on different topics. We had our proof of concept one in Columbus in 2018. It sold out. And then last year, 2019, we had 4 events. And Josh, like you mentioned, you spoke at the one in Washington, D.C. We always have them at different places, and we try not to do the hotel ballroom, trade show room, whatever, but just frankly because that's not interesting. And so what we wanted to do was to do something different. For example, the one that you spoke at, Josh, where was it?
Oh, it was at the Nationals ball field.
And the whole day was built on sales and marketing for athletics. So where do we have it? We had it at the Washington Nationals Major League Ballpark. And before and after the game, we got to go on field and watch batting practice. We got to go watch the game, and we do a lot of networking activities. And there's a lot more than just the content. It's more about coming together as an industry and as a tribe to learn from each other. And we kind of set little things up for that to happen, and that's kind of what Shirt Lab is about, our live event. So, but what are we doing right now? We can't have a live event. We just because of social distancing and the craziness that's going on in the world. So what we decided to do was to build what we're calling the Shirt Lab Summit, which is an online event that's going to be June 1st to June 3rd. You can register for this at shirtlabsummit.com. And what we're going to be doing is having interviews with industry greats and talk to them about, their skills and knowledge and tactical things that people can use to get better at whatever they do. And so normally a Shirt Lab event, maybe has 5 or 6 speakers. This is going to be 30 plus folks over 3 days, all online, and it's all free. You can upgrade to get content that you can, the recordings and some audio files and transcripts of everything. There's a lot of different stuff that you can get if you want to increase it, but you can listen for free, and we just recommend that people sign up right now. We're actually kind of constructing the website. So right now it's just really kind of a landing page to get on our mailing list. I don't know at the time of this recording if we'll have the live site built yet or not. So sorry if it's not ready. But the registration site is. So you just go and it's just your name and your email. So you can sign up, and then once we have everything built, we'll be sending a bunch of information. It's going to be fantastic, and you're one of our guests, aren't you?
Yeah, you guys are had me back, thankfully. And I think the cool thing is at the first Shirt Lab event, just to Marshall's point, I didn't talk for 1 minute during my scheduled session about how to print a garment. It was all about sales, it was all about marketing, and I think you guys identified quite the gap in the industry and are filling it nicely with the Shirt Lab events. And that's really where shops need to start once they have the business plan is how am I going to succeed? I can't print anything if I don't have the sales coming through. So kudos to you guys. Thanks so much for setting that up.
Yeah, no problem. Sales are the lifeblood of a business. So if without sales, you're pretty much dead in the water. So that's why we've really identified that. And of course, marketing, if anything, is if sales is blood, right? Marketing is the oxygen, right? That's how you're being known, how you're getting eyeballs to your website, how all that works is the marketing part of that, and you absolutely have to have it. And if that's not a big concern, if that's not a big driving force for you right now, you need to be investing time in that.
Yep, totally agree. So before we move on from the Shirt Lab events and topic, yeah, I know it's kind of could be up in the air. Who knows with the world and the way things are going, and we'll dive a little deeper there. But can you talk a bit just about your October event and what's on slate there?
Yeah, so we actually had two events scheduled for this year. We were doing a shirt lab, we're calling it the Women's Nexus in Chicago in June, and that got postponed. Hopefully, we're going to have a new date, but I don't know when. Just we have to kind of see what happens with everything. We're thinking about the fall, and maybe it's going to be February. But right now, we're still on the slate. We haven't moved it because October's still far enough away. Maybe it'll still happen. Fingers and toes crossed here, right?
Hmm.
That's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be a 2 day event. And we just have a fantastic lineup of great folks talking about really awesome stuff. The keynote speaker for that is going to be Jeffrey Gittimer, who is a best selling sales and marketing author. If you haven't heard of that guy, just Google him. It's Gitomer. He has a fantastic podcast called Sell or Die. He has one of the best selling books of all time for sales, which is the Little Red Book of Selling. He's just a powerhouse guy. And he actually has roots selling t-shirts. He did that in New York City like forever ago. And so it's kind of interesting. He was actually business partners with Richard Greaves for a while. He's big buddies with Mark Coudray. So it's like one of these things where we're getting the team together, right, to do this. But it isn't just him. We've got Jason Rink, which is he's all about video. He's going to be actually piggybacking on a segment that Mark Coudray did at our Portland event. About using the SB7 story brand framework in video. Eric Campbell's going to be talking. Lori Fillman's coming back. Tom and I both have segments that we're doing. Mine's on creative problem solving. Mike Chong and Jonathan Tynes are both doing a whole thing on how to and why they made the decision just to contract decorate everything. Jay Basel's talking about marketing. We got Richard Greaves talking about internal and external communication, and Michelle Moxley is with M&R is going to be talking about how to do and build creative decoration. Like you innovate, you do your R&D, and then you take that new idea and how to go out and sell it to a bunch of different clients. So there's a lot of really impactful things. It's going to be in actually Fort Worth. We're calling it Shirt Lab Dallas. But that's October 2 and 3. It's a 2 day event. It's the first time we've ever done a 2 day event. We're very excited about it. You can go to shirtlablive.com and check it out. We have a different website address for that. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Got any questions? Happy to answer those.
Okay, perfect. And for those of you that do have questions, as you're listening to this episode, you can always go over to our Facebook group, which is Heat Press for Profit, and we will have this podcast up, and there'll be a conversation thread, and we'll make sure Marshall gets eyes on that to be able to answer any questions when we publish this episode as you're listening to it. Good. So lots of stuff to talk about. So one thing that I noticed, and I believe I heard you on a podcast at another trade show, maybe with the two regular guys. You were talking about a online training course, and this was pre-launch on it, called 6 Steps to Kill Production Downtime. Now, for our listener, first let's start with the very basics. Can you talk a little bit about what downtime is in a production setting and why it's so important to understand it and potentially measure it?
Sure. Let's just take things in real easy chunks, right? So the first idea is that we have a business day. I know things are weird right now. Let's just pretend it's a normal day, and let's call it we have 8 hours, right? Normal businesses are an 8 hour production day, right? We agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, so 8 hour day. How many minutes of that day are we spending in production? Like your production is open all day. Let's just say we have enough orders where you've got people doing your production. Regardless of the decoration technique, they're producing stuff. They're decorating garments or whatever they're doing, right? So the idea here is any time that you're not actually doing that is downtime. So, when and I'm not talking about breaks and lunch. What I'm talking about is when they stop doing their work to go find the shirts for the next order, and they have to go over to where they were received, and maybe it's unorganized and they're rooting around through stuff, and then let's just say maybe that takes 10 minutes, right? Or they have to go find something, or they're looking at their work order, and they have to go ask the salesperson a question because there's not enough instructions on that page for them to do their job properly. Okay, and that takes 5 minutes, right? So what happens is in that 8 hour period, if you subtract 30 minutes for lunch and maybe two 15-minute breaks, that leaves 7 hours, right? And you start taking 15 minutes for this and 5 minutes for this and 10 minutes for that and 2 minutes for this and 30 minutes for that, or there's all these different things that happen. What you'll find if you're actually measuring this stuff, which is part of my course, you'll find that you're only really actually decorating a garment maybe half the time. So in an 8 hour day, you're only really printing or heat pressing or embroidering or whatever you do, you're only doing that 3.5 hours out of that day, right? But you're paying people for that full day. And it's not that operator's fault. Usually it has a lot to do with I always start with the work order because that's where a lot of the problems start, is just with the instructions we give our people. But it could be also with not being organized. It could be that your shop is a mess, right? And it looks like a tornado blew through there just because you're not clean, right? That has a lot to do with things sometimes. It could be because your people aren't properly trained, or the equipment is kind of wonky because it's old, and the computer has to be restarted 16 times a day because it keeps freezing up. There's a lot of things that happen to us during our day that causes this production downtime. So the whole idea with the course was, what we want to do is we want to identify some things, and then using different tools, we want to solve that. And the first thing that we do is we want to measure and accurately understand what our production downtime actually costs us. So we want to give a monetary dollar amount for this. And the reason we want to do that is because why are we actually doing any of this work if we're not going to make more money at it or save money, right? That's the idea here. So if I can be more efficient with my production department, and let's say accurately, we have 50% downtime, which means 50% of our available time, we're not actually decorating. If I can move that to 40%, right, we can save 10%, we can make more money because we're actually producing more orders. We're getting more orders shipped, right? So you can look at a bunch of different stuff here, and the whole online course is a DIY course that allows you to kind of understand this better and make some better decisions, build better systems. And we do a lot of really fun stuff with scary things like process mapping. I teach people how to do that, right? And so that's what the course is about. And it's laid out very logically. There's stuff that you can download. There's worksheets that you fill out. There's videos that I talk about things and set you up for success. Also, with the course is, of course, access to me. If you're doing the course and you get stuck, I'm an email or a phone call away. I'm there for you. It's not like, you buy the course and, hey, buddy, you're on your own. It's like I'm helping you with that. So,
Great, great. Now, I'm sure that would be valuable. So, just for our listeners, I know a lot of them have manufacturing locations and shops, but we do have a fair amount of listeners that are maybe just one or two people in the business and run a home business. And from talking with previous guests on the podcast, one thing those apparel decorators are struggling with is when is the right time to hire, or how do I scale my business? So some of what you're implying is that by documenting the process, having a work order, having the organization, you'll be better equipped to do that. Is that what correct?
yeah, yeah. So, here's something I want everybody to understand, right? Is, if you're the owner and you're doing all these tasks, these are things that have to be handled. They have to be done. We have to get those shirts decorated. You're also the salesperson. You're also the head of marketing. You're also the artist, right? Because we wear lots of hats when we're starting a business. And that's completely understandable. But as the business owner, right, we want to be working on our business and not in the business. So, one thing I want you to kind of understand is I would like everybody right now to come up with an hour dollar figure of what you think your time is worth. Is it $20 an hour? Is it $50 an hour? Is it $100 an hour? How much is your time worth? Right? I know what I think my time is worth, right? But what is your time worth, right? It doesn't matter what I think about me. What matters is about what you think about you. So, what is your time worth? And what we want to be working on is higher value things. So, if you can, like, let's just say for discussion, you think your time is worth, I don't know, $30 an hour as an owner, which is to me is a little low, but that's okay. $30 an hour, right? Can you find somebody out there to do some of the tasks that you do for less than that? I bet you can, right? So I bet you can find somebody that can do that. Now, maybe that's a part-time person. Maybe it's some software. Maybe it isn't even a person, right? So let's talk about your marketing, right? So if you were to buy some marketing, a marketing software package that allows you to post social media and track your Google Analytics and do all this kind of stuff, and let's say there was a big fee for that, right? Let's just call that fee $100 a month, which seems like a lot of money, right? That's $1,200 a year, right? But it saves you, let's just say it saves you 30 hours, right? 30 times 30 is $900, right? So it saves you 30 hours a month. It only costs 100. It saves you, so you're in the black for $800 now, right? So it's just a matter of how you're thinking about stuff. So, get some paper out and kind of calculate this stuff for what makes sense for you, and then see if you can solve it. Maybe you have to hire somebody. Let's say they're at $15 an hour. Your time is worth 30, right? You're actually saving $15, not spending it, because if you take this time to grow your business, not, look at Facebook cat memes, but actually grow your business with this time by networking, by partnering with a bigger person, by doing some bigger things, right? What'll happen is you can grow your business, you can grow these orders, and this is how companies are built. They're built by maximizing the time of the leaders and the owners, because they need to be thinking macro view, 30,000 feet, looking down, looking at everything that's happening, and not worrying about, man, I got these 3 orders to ship today. How am I going to get it all done? Right? Does that make sense,
Yeah.
Josh?
Oh, it makes a ton of sense, and I love the practical approach to it. It starts with valuing your time, and then it really gives you something, kind of a yardstick, so to speak, to hold up against the tasks that you are completing in a day, and figuring out how can I move those out so I can focus on higher value activity. To your point, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So, um, I know that when we were prepping for this episode, I mean, you've heard a lot of marketing experts over the past 2 years with Shirt Lab, and I'm sure well before that, and have been. I learned so much during that event, even on video marketing, which I've been doing since 2008. But one of the notes that you felt important to talk about was this concept of human to human marketing. So, can you define that for us first so we can go a little bit deeper?
Yeah, yeah. So here's the idea. Here is that, you know, nobody, I don't care who you are, wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. Okay, everybody wants to buy stuff. We buy stuff all the time, and we buy stuff usually through an emotional response. We don't really like there. I'm sure there's some nerd out there that buys stuff based on data, right? But most people don't. They buy stuff because they want to belong. They want to solve a problem. If there's some emotional link, they buy a lot of times based on these different human emotional things, right? So human to human marketing is all about recognizing that we're people, right? And so it's much harder to sell by email, right? Because it's just a bunch of words. In fact, my email, I don't know about yours, is jam full of stuff that's instantly going to be deleted, right? Because I'm not even going to read it.
Absolutely.
So that carefully constructed email message that you built, that you sent, that you spent all that time creating, most of the time is just going to end up in somebody's trash bin. So that's not a really good effective tool. What's a really great effective tool is recognizing that we're people, that we're connecting with other people. So how can we do that? It's all about showing up as a person. Even though you're representing your company, we want to show up as a person. And so a great tool for that is, of course, video. A great tool for that is doing stuff on Facebook. A great tool on that is creating stuff on LinkedIn, or doing a webinar, or doing things where you're connecting with other people as a person. And this has a lot to do with just simply showing up and engaging, and not really trying to sell people anything. It's about keep getting those connections built first. That's really super important, is getting these connections built first. And that's because you want to show up where your customers are and be recognized as a trustworthy person. Remember, there's a sales cycle, which is know, like, trust, buy, right? So the first three things are know. They have to know who you are. They have to like what you do. They have to trust what you do. And then if you get those three things handled, when they're ready, right? They're ready to buy. They already like you. They already know they trust that you can do a good job, right? That's where all this fits, right? So how do we do this? How do we do human to human marketing? A great tool right now, I highly recommend it, is video. Is creating more videos. It's showing up. It's being vulnerable. You don't have to have professional videos. I don't know about you, but you're not Martin Scorsese, okay? You're not going to film this awesome epic commercial, right? Where you got the slow motion person walking and explosions and everything looks like it's made from Hollywood. Nobody trusts that stuff anyway. What people are really latching onto right now is video, and it's video done with your phone. So spend $20 and buy yourself a selfie stick, okay? And a lot of these right now have like a little tripod feature. That's what I have, right? And you can just set that thing up anywhere, and you can just start talking. And you can make a little 1-minute video or a 5-minute video, or you can do Facebook Live and talk about what's going on today. You can show off your shop. You can show the process. You can show your customers showing up and picking. I guess you can't do that now with the shelter in place, but showing off the shirts that you just made for them, right? I guess they can't do it when they pick up. They can do it while they're wearing it, right? With the correct hashtag and all this other stuff. So if you can get your customers to show off what you do, right? That's a big win. That's human to human. If you can illustrate how you're doing things, that's human to human. One of the things right now, especially with the craziness that's going on, is that if we're not present, if we're not talking about what we're doing, what happens is people make up their own stories as to what's going on. So currently, if you're not marketing, people think you're closed down because they don't know from you what's going on, right? So if we can film right now, hey, we're open. Look, this is what we're doing right now, right? Whatever. We're sending that message out there that we're actually active. We're doing things, right? And here's another thing is people are very concerned right now about catching the virus. So if we can show our cleaning procedures that, your shirts are made and we're wearing masks and we're wearing gloves the whole time, a human's not touching it, right? That makes me feel safe.
Yeah, so let's just go a little bit
Mm-hmm.
into that for a second. So
Yeah.
right now, as we're sitting this, as we've alluded to several times already, we're in forced closures. There's a lot of uncertainty around business around the world,
Yep.
certainly here in the U.S. and Arizona or Pennsylvania or whatever state you may be listening from. Um, I think right now is really an opportunity to show up and show that human to human marketing and caring when there really isn't a sale sometimes to be made. Would you agree with that?
Yes, we need to lead with marketing. So here's a great tip, right? So I want you to out there, if you're listening, I want you to pretend that everybody right now, we're all at a funeral. We're all at a funeral. So how would you sell at a funeral? Would you be going, hey, it's 50% off right now. You got to act this second, right? Would you be saying that? No, right? You would
Certainly
not be
not.
saying that, right? Because you would be like booted to the street, probably, right? But so if we need to be leading with empathy, what we need to be doing right now is just asking a couple questions, right? Hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Or how are you doing? Or what's going on with you right now? How's everything how's that being impacted from you? What are your problems? And we can just have these conversations. We don't have to sell them anything, right? And then they're going to tell us what they need. They're going to tell us if we can help them. We don't need to be reaching out to them and shaking them by the shoulders and the head going, "Hey, we got something to sell you." Because nobody's going to be buying that.
Yeah.
So if we just pretend they're all at a funeral, because this is what it feels like right now, right? And then how can we help each other? We're leading with empathy. We're leading with caring. We're leading with love. That's going to get us through this. And then maybe there's some orders from it. I don't know, but this is how we're going to make it through this thing. And what we're building right now is just that leadership level of caring, and that will show up with sales maybe now, but certainly down the road, right? And that's where we need to be the second.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Basically, right now, the interactions that you have show that you care and will ultimately build loyalty, even if it's not a dollar today.
Exactly.
Good, good. So, one of the things that I like to do on these podcasts and is turn it over to you a little bit and say whether you have any questions for me or whether one thing I definitely want to get is your top tip that you would want to share for an apparel decorator that might be listening outside of what we covered.
I think the top tip right now is being present. And right now, everybody, it's like we're in a deer in the headlights, right? We can't move. We're frozen. We're frozen with fear and uncertainty. We don't know what's going on. We don't know. There's all this talk about government assistance and whatever. Well, everybody's in that same line. Okay, I'm in that line. I've applied for all that stuff. I mean, who knows when we'll be getting any of that, right? If ever. And so it's one of these things where we're going to have to take control and take action of our own destiny. And I think by doing that with little small actions, things that we need to be thinking about, we need to be thinking about how the world is changing. Our customers are changing. How people are buying are changing. I don't know how you as the listener sell or who your markets are or whatever. Okay. Everybody's a little different. But we need to be thinking about um, the world is going to be different for everybody. We're not going to be able, I just wish this thing were over and we can get back to where it was. Well, guess what? News for you, it's not going back to the way it was. Okay? We may be wearing masks on our face for the next year and a half. Okay? We might be 6 feet apart from everybody forever. Right? Who knows? There's no there. So with that, there's opportunity here. Right? So and I would not be jumping in on the bandwagon so much for the next crazy thing. I would be thinking about how I can help my customers with what their problems are. And it's real easy to get caught up in this I'm going to do masks for everybody craze. And there's certainly opportunity for that. But is that where you need to pivot? To me, it's kind of a short term thing right now. And I don't know if that's right for everybody. Also, there could be some issues here with that. With if you deliver masks that don't have quality, right? Are you going to be losing customers from that just because you're trying to jump in on that, right? So I'd be very careful if you're making moves. That's perfectly okay. Write a little business plan. How are you going to do it? How does this help? Right now, who are my reliable suppliers, right? And really kind of look at that and make sure you make sense with this, right? And so we need to be leading away from the deer in the headlights, get away from uncertainty and fear, take really small steps forward, and then as you get comfortable, these steps can be larger, right? I think it all comes from talking to customers, calling them up on the phone if you can get them on the phone, because some people, like school districts, they're not working, right? If you talk to people on the phone, if you can, find out what their problems are and what they're doing. How can you help? What are some creative ways that you can solve their problems? Right? Because everybody has problems right now. How can I solve those problems? And if we can do that, I think we'll find our way or navigate our way out of this. Right? I don't think there's going to be a short-term solution. Right? So we need to be thinking right now, our brains need to be 4 to 6, 8 weeks out. Right? And paying attention to what's going on. I personally can't stand watching TV right now, any news channel. I can't take it. So
Agree.
what I'm doing is I'm talking to customers, I'm talking to vendors, I'm talking to folks like you. What can I do? How can I help? What do you see? What do you see that is successful? And people are sharing that information or they're asking questions. And that's how we get together as an industry and as a group, I think, is by just communicating ourselves, but with our customers also, and we'll solve our own problems, but we can solve it all together.
Great insight. Thanks for that. And so for those listening, I think the moral of the story there is take a step back, and while you may have to pay the bills today, make sure you're applying for every part of relief that you possibly can and making the tough decisions and the necessary steps that you probably had to make 2 weeks ago, not just as you're listening to this, or 4 weeks ago. But if you haven't done that, follow through, figure out how you can get your business leaner. That way you can take more of a long game approach to this and think about how business is different for you when you come out of this. Great. So Marshall, I know we've talked a lot across different events and trade shows and podcasts, a little bit back and forth. Are there any questions that you have for me on or for Stahls in general?
Well, the coolest thing I think you guys have developed in a long time is that new hat press.
Yeah.
How is that going? What's the story with that? I know everybody's kind of stopped with equipment buying and stuff, but I'm very curious as to how many people have those. What is the reaction to that? I saw that you gave me a really good demo in Long Beach. I'm just wanted to curious about that.
Yeah, so the 360 hat press is going extremely well in some cases and not well in other cases. So just to be completely transparent, the response was absolutely overwhelming thanks to just people being interested in it solving a real problem, and then the industry really latching onto it and say, hey, here's a solution you may want to look at to apparel decorators. And we've been absolutely flooded with orders to the point where we're on long waiting lists. Now, we along the process, of course, we release the product. Innovation is tough, as I like to say, and so we put some machines out there, and then got some market feedback and wanted to make some slight adjustments to the design to actually improve it. So we are in the process of making those slight adjustments right now, and should be back to fulfilling all of the pre-orders and back orders that we have. Hopefully, depending on how this virus impacts everything, our goal was mid-May to really be in a full stock position and shipping again, because response has been phenomenal. It solves a problem, and along the way, we've been working on coming out with new dimensional products that can now be applied to this category of headwear because of the press. So it's been
Yeah.
amazing to watch. As a salesperson and a sales manager, it's like, gosh, can we just make more of them quicker, please? Because people want to buy this. I don't even have to sell it at
Right.
all.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's it's frustrating from a customer point of view, and I get that, and so it is as well. But it's one of those things where we were very early. It reminds me of the early days of some of the equipment that I've seen launch, where it was just a waiting list at that point.
Right, right. Well, it's very impressive, and if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you check it out. As somebody who's managed a whole heat press department that was just multiple units cranking out orders all day, I saw the value. Like Josh will test, because I was like floored. I'm like, man, that is going to be just the number one thing ever. Is because it's going to really make, if you do a lot of hats, you do a lot of stuff, it's really going to make you way more efficient. And of course, as we discussed earlier, time is money, right? The more hats we can do a day, the more money we can make. And
Yeah, the other thing that surprised me about this one is, and I guess in hindsight it's not surprising, but the interest from retailers, because everybody seems to be driving after experiences in their retail stores, and just the fact that it's a small footprint, and even for event printing, its hats are more or less or one size fits all. That part of it's been really interesting to see the interest from the retail side of the business as well.
oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, it's been something new. So of course, we're working on new and interesting ways to display and offer point of sale customization for hats, because it's opening up a whole new world. So good. So we're coming up on the 45-minute mark here. I want to make sure that we point people in the right direction on where they can tap into all of the resources that you have available, Marshall. So what's the best way for somebody to learn about everything you're doing or get in touch?
Well, I would love for you guys to go to my website, which is just atkinsont-shirt.com. On there, I have a blog. I publish a blog every single Saturday and have since 2010. So there's a gazillion articles there. Um, and then I also have my coaching plans if you're interested in that. Also, my online courses there. I'm working on another one right now, so hopefully I'll have that finished soon. I also have a couple of ebooks. I'm actually in the middle of writing a new ebook right now about how to rethink your business because of the coronavirus, and pivot and do so and come up with some creative ideas. I'm about halfway through writing that right now, so hopefully I'll have that out maybe end of the month or maybe middle of May sometime. So there will be a lot of stuff there. That's atkinsont-shirt.com. If you're interested in Shirt Lab, we would love you to sign up for the summit, which is again shirtlabsummit.com. Also, I'd like to mention I am hosting a weekly Q&A on my Facebook channel, which is just Atkinson Consulting on Facebook. I can't really actually remember the URL, but I'm doing that with Alan Howe, who is a sales rep for EasyWay, and Alan's just a wealth of knowledge, and we both teach at a lot of the trade shows and stuff, and he's really a cool guy. We're doing that on noon Eastern every single Friday. And I will be doing that tomorrow with him. And also, I'm uploading all of the content that we're doing there onto my YouTube channel because unlike Josh, I have zero videos up on YouTube, and I need more. So I've just started doing that. So anyway, but the idea here is an hour long live Q&A on Facebook. So we're there for questions. You can type in comments your question, and then we answer them. Also, the people that are watching tend to also answer the question as well. And these range from sales to production to operations to what's going on with everybody's SBA loans. There's all kind of stuff that comes up, and everybody kind of comments on things. And so it's a very interesting group, and it's doing really well. And I don't think we're going to be slowing down anytime soon. So that's Fridays, noon Eastern on the Atkinson Consulting Facebook page.
Awesome. Great. So those are some great places to tap into Marshall and everything he's doing. Hey, Marshall, thanks so much for coming on my podcast. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Josh. As you know, I'm happy to help.
All right, great. So we want to thank Marshall for joining us and wish him much success as he looks to help businesses like yours in our industry to succeed. And we hope you as the listener found something on today's show that will help you. If you'd like to ask follow-up questions, just look for our show conversation thread over at our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, where you can network and share ideas with thousands of businesses aiming to make a profit with heat printing just like you.